Hi everyone, welcome back to Crafting at Whimsy Wonderland. My name is Stacy. Today I have another Dollar Tree DIY Easter project for you. And to do this project you're going to need just a few little supplies. You're going to need one of these wooden eggs from the Dollar Tree. This is the one that comes plain wood. I've just already put a couple coats of chalk paint on it because I was going to use it in another project. And I didn't end up doing that. So I'm going to use it for its own project. So you'll need one of these painted out in white. I used chalk paint and I think I gave it 2 coats. And then you're going to need a bunny that is smaller than your egg. And this bunny came off of an Easter sign. It was white glitter and it had a little burlap bow. I used the sign in another project. So what I did with this one, and I love how it turned out, is, let me see if you can even see that. I painted it really thick with chalk paint right over the top of the glitter, and then I took my heat gun to it. There we go. Then I took my heat gun to it and dried it as fast as I could, and I love these little crackle marks that happen because of that. But I needed it to be a thick coat of chalk paint, and you can kind of see some of the brush lines because of that, but the crackle just kind of makes it look old-fashioned. You could do white paint and then, you know, or like a gray paint and then crackle medium and then another white paint over the top, but I didn't want to do all those steps, so I just thought I would give this method a try, and it actually worked. So I'm going to be doing my buffalo check print. I'm going to put the white bunny over to the side because I want him to stay white. I don't want to get any paint on him. And I've got some I think it's 3/4 inch blue painter's tape, and I'm going to start marking off my pattern. Now this is going to be, the first one is going to end up being my spacer, so I'm going to put it, I'm trying to center it in the middle here. That's going to be a spacer piece. Alright. Now painting buffalo check does use up quite a lot of tape, but I do have one saving tip for you, is when after we paint the first coat and you peel off the strips of tape, save them, you can reuse them for the next step. So I'm putting tape right next to each other side by side, and then I'm pulling off my spacer. Okay? And then I put my spacer back on. And I would not use regular masking tape for this. This absolutely needs to be painter grade tape so that it doesn't peel off your base coat. Now it's time to put on our first coat of color. I'm just making sure that all of the tape pieces are stuck down really well. And this is going to be pink and gray. So I've taken the pink I had mixed up for several other projects I've done for Easter, and I added it to some white acrylic paint because I'm running low on my chalk paint, and I wanted it to be a very, very, very pale pink for the first coat. So what I'm going to do is just start painting. I'm going to let that set for just a minute because I think now that I'm looking at it, I think I'm going to go ahead and fill in that hole with some wood filler. My wood filler is getting really dried up. I need to get some fresh. I'm just going to wipe it into that hole, and using my finger I'm going to rub off as much as I possibly can to get it smooth. And I'm going to grab a little piece of sandpaper. Make sure it's sanded smooth, and then I'm just going to take my paint and paint right back over it. So since I gave that one a second coat, I'm going to go ahead and give all of the stripes a second coat because I want them to be the same color. Then I'm not going to worry about letting this dry. I'm just going to go ahead and peel off the tape strips, and I am saving these. Do not throw them away. You'll reuse them on not the next step, but the step after that. I just need to let this dry, and we'll be back for the next step. I'm going to take my heat gun to it, but I don't want to do that on camera. So my egg is dry, and I want to make sure that I get another coat of paint on top of that, on top of the hole I filled. So I'm going to start with my spacer right there. Then I'm going to put down my strip. Make sure that your first coat is completely dry. This base coat's actually been on here for several days because, like I say, it was going to be used in another project that I didn't actually end up using it for. Just going to make sure that these are all stuck down really well. And I'm just going to use the same brush that I used for the last coat. And this time I'm using the pink that I had pre-mixed from all the other crafts I've done for Easter. And I'm just going to paint that on. Now this needs to dry. I am going to take the air gun or heat gun to it, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so this has had time to dry, and now I'm going to take the pieces of tape that I had used in the first step and put them back on. If you have problems seeing your lines, go ahead and use your spacer. But I can see the lines. I don't know if you can see the lines. Let's see. I can kind of see the lines where the tape was. You can see the darker edge and see a little bit of a line. Press down all the tape edges, make sure that they're down really well. And this is where you're going to paint your accent color. If I was doing black and white, now would be the time to do black. Sorry, we're out of focus here. There we go. Alright, so I have mixed just a really pale gray. I took some white and just put a little bit of this Waverly Super Premium acrylic paint, and it's in the color Steel. So I'm just going to start painting all the exposed areas. You can paint the whole thing if you want. It's up to you, but I just kind of aim for the little spots and not worrying about full coverage. And I like to paint the edges first. I don't know, just the way I do it. Try not to paint toward a piece of tape, paint along with it, but never towards it, because that'll help so that you don't want the paint to bleed underneath the tape. So try to come off the tape onto your project. Oh. All right. Good, bad, or ugly, that's what I'm going with. I'm not going to take the paint gun to this. I'm just going to start peeling off. You can try to peel off multiple strips at a time if you want. It's up to you. Just go slow and have a trash can handy ready to catch all of your icky pieces of painter's tape. This is kind of funny because this is my original white and this is the light pink, but this looks white. This looks like a light gray and a dark gray. It's just kind of funny how the colors changed. They didn't quite come out the same way I had them in my brain, but I do like the way this looks. I've always been a fan of pink and gray together, and also pink and a light soft green. So I was back and forth between, do I want this to be pink and gray or pink and green? I decided to go with pink and gray. And now I'm going to take my heat gun to this and dry this out really, really well. Okay, let me tell you a little bit more about what I have in mind for this sign. I was watching an old Hallmark movie, and don't ask me which one it was because I can't remember. There's so many. And I watched them all. I was inspired by an Easter Hallmark movie where they're working in a candy store, and they decide to bring back these old-fashioned gigantic chocolate eggs. And they decorate the outside of them so beautifully, and it reminded me of the old Faberge eggs. And so I wanted to do this kind of like that. That's what has inspired this project. So what I'm going to do is lay my Easter egg down on a piece of cardstock, and you're going to want it to be cardstock because we're going to be making a pattern here, and you're going to want something a little stiffer than paper because you're going to need to trace around it. So I'm going to trace out my, let me do it on the other side that's blue so you can actually see what I'm doing. Let me do it this way, using up some old cardstock that I have. It's been around forever. All right, so I'm tracing around. Okay, there, you can see my egg. Now I'm just going to put this aside to let that paint cure and harden a little more. Then I'm going to figure out where my bunny is going to go on this egg, and I want him to be centered. So I'm kind of looking to see what looks best to me. And I think that's going to do it. So I'm going to trace around my bunny. You can skip this step if you want to, but I just think it's easier to, rather than if I make a mistake, I have to reposition him. I'm just going to find where he looks good, and then I'm going to trace around him and put him to the side. Okay, now I want to make an oval. The thought is I'm going to make like a plaque that's going to go around my bunny. So I'm going to grab a ruler, and I'm just going to kind of measure just so I have an idea of how far away it is. I'm going to do an inch. Actually, I'm going to do 1.25 inches. Because I still want to be able to see all that work I did on the painting of the egg. I don't want to cover it all up. And if you don't have the same bunny that I have, use whatever bunny you have that's smaller than your egg, and just make this work. Okay, now in theory, all I have to do is join my marks. And if you got too much of a space in between, just go back and put a couple more marks. Not a big deal. I like to come down from a mark and meet my other mark. I don't know why, I just do. I just find that easier. What else would work is if you had one of those Easter egg signs from the Dollar Tree that already had the center cut out. You could use that center and not have to do any of this. I just thought about those. You could even make your center medallion right on top of that and then glue it on. I think they're about the same size. Okay, so this would be what my bunny ends up looking like. I like that. I wish I had a little bit smaller bunny or a little bit bigger egg so I would have more of this showing. But that's what I've got, so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to cut the center egg shape out very carefully. other thing I could use is this little bunny, and then I could have a smaller egg, but I really like this tall bunny. Okay, bringing back my egg. Now I need to figure out center of that. Well, I guess it shows pretty well. And the way I can check is look at my 1¼ mark. Line it up. Okay. You don't have to check every little spot on the 1¼ Let's go that way just a little. Okay. You could just mark your 1¼ on here if you want, but I wanted to make sure that my bunny was going to fit nicely, so that's why I did this. And I just have luck of the draw. It seems to be that I have more gray showing than pink. Alright, so there's my egg that I'll be using as my pattern. Now, Faberge eggs usually have like a fancy trim around the edge. Okay, I thought I would share with you all the little things I had in mind for trim that could be used to edge this off. I'll start with my least favorite. I would love this if it wasn't green, because green just doesn't go with this. And it's too shiny for what I want. Okay, so Faberge eggs have fancy trims, and so this is some trim that I got in a bag of ribbon that I bought at Hobby Lobby for $1.99. I talked to you about that on one of my ribbon things before. I haven't been able to find those recently at my Hobby Lobby, so you may or may not be able to get bags of ribbon remnants. I don't know. So anyway, I thought that looked really neat, but I just didn't like how shiny the ribbon was. I'm going for more of a farmhouse style. Okay, so this was just too shiny, but I love the look of the ruffled ribbon. I wish I had some in burlap and lace. I think that would be really pretty. I could make my own, but I don't want to. So moving on to the next thing. My next idea was a roll of lace that I've gotten from the Dollar Tree. And I have been trying to craft my stash for the last several videos that I've done. So apparently I have used all of that lace up. So I have some remnants of it though. But see, that could go around the edge too and look really nice. Okay. You could even put in some of your own little pleats if you wanted to give it a little ruffled look. Okay. Another idea, and I don't have enough of this either, is some burlap ribbon. I would pleat it every few inches so that it would make it easier to go around the curves. Okay, that would look really cute. So all of those ideas I decided were too much work, and I remembered the white rope I have from Hobby Lobby. Okay, so I'm going to use this as my trim. A couple other options if you don't have the rope. There's a couple of other options I did when I was doing one of my pizza pan projects. I showed you all the different kinds of rope that I was able to pick up. These were from Walmart. They were about, I want to say they were $4 a piece, maybe $5, I don't remember. But you could use that as well. I just like the way this is twisted. You could also use the nautical ribbon from the Dollar Tree. Here's a little remnant of that. Okay, if you wanted a really rustic look, you could do that. You could double them up. That's a possibility. I don't know. Okay, so those are just some choices you have for trimming it out at the end. Okay, I'm going to put Bunny aside for a minute. Actually, no, I'm going to trace Bunny, and I'm just going to lightly pencil mark him on. My next step is going to be to cover all of this area in moss. Okay, So this is going to get a little messy. Moss projects always do. My glue gun heating up, and I'm going to use the moss that I have left over from my topiary project. I'm kind of debating. It's like, should I glue the bunny down and then put moss all around him, or should I put moss all the way around, glue him on, and then touch up the moss if I need to? Now this could probably get done with Mod Podge. I'm thinking it would just take longer for it to dry. Then I just kind of shake off the extra. Okay. So I'm going to go with gluing a bigger section this time. Just coming around the bunny. This will allow me to put a bigger clump on it once. Kind of smush it in. You watched my moss bunny or my topiary video. You saw that I like to really crunch the moss, and that breaks it up into small little bits. And then all this little dusty stuff down here on the bottom does a really good job for filling in the holes. I'm being pretty hard on the moss as I wipe it off, because I don't want a bunch of moss coming off on my shelf or my wall if I decide to hang this. Places I need a little bit more are here, so I'm going to really mark those dark. Still go in after I get the rope on if there's some places that need it, but I want to test with my bunny one more time. Just make sure he's going to cover everything. Oh, you know what? I think I need to go in all the way around a little bit. Because he's going to be popped up. So I don't want there to be edges showing underneath. Okay, so I've done a little bit of glue all the way around, and I'm just going to sprinkle on kind of the dusty stuff and smush it in. I want there to be some exposed wood because that's what the tape is going to stick to. Tap off any extra that I can. Pull off any big chunks that are dangling around. I'm going to grab my edging ribbon or rope. Okay. So when I do rope, I like to cut it at a 45-degree angle on my ends, because then when the ends meet, it's easier to stick them together. So I'm going to glue this all the way around the moss. This rope I got at Hobby Lobby. I used my 40% off coupon. But like I say, you can use the clothesline from Walmart if you don't have this. Some Hobby Lobbies are closed, some Hobby Lobbies are open, so it just depends on. If you want to go out, I don't suggest you go out. I suggest you find something that you have around the house and use that. Even if you have like an old mop head, you could cut the strings of that and use it. But right now I am just trying to craft my stash with what I have on hand already so that I don't have to go out to the store. I'm trying to just use what I have. I think my biggest problem is going to be I'm going to run out of hot glue and I'm going to run out of white chalk paint. And those are the two things that I'm going to have to get creative about if I run out. Okay, since I have my rope cut at a 45-degree angle, it should smush together fairly easily here. I like to use my fingertip covers to squish off any extra glue, but I really want these ends to come together. I need a little tiny bunny medallion to put right there. So I'm taking the idea of a fancy overdone Faberge egg and trying to make it a little more farmhouse style. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of make sure that my rope is smooth, shaped like an egg. It's not exactly centered. That bums me a little bit, but it is what it is. It's too late to fix it now. Now I'm grabbing the foam mounting tape from the Dollar Tree. It's Super Glue brand. I don't have the package to show you, but it comes like this on a yellow card. And I'm going to clean the middle of this and blow out the extra dust, clean as I possibly can. And then my little trick is to take 2 squares, peel off the backing, and then fold those 2 squares together, and you'll have a double thick spot of tape. Peel. Good and strong adhesive on this foam mounting tape, but since this is so dusty, that's why I'm thinking I should have hot glued those. We'll see. If they come undone, I'll hot glue them down at a later date. Just going to put the hot glue on here and stick that down, making sure they're all pressed in, then peeling off the other backing. Put a little dot of hot glue on each of these foam squares, just because it's a good idea to reinforce your adhesive. I have never had a problem with anything falling off that was stuck with these, that stuck with this super glue foam tape. I've never had a problem, but because of the moss situation, that's why I'm backing it up. Okay, there's what I have so far. I wish I had this a little more centered, but it is what it is, and I can't fix it now because it's all glued down. Now I have this jar, and I used a giant Christmas tree jar of all of these beads from Michael's, and they come in a tube. This is 2 tubes worth. It's a tube of tiny ones and then a tube of mixed ones. I'm going to use these teeny tiny ones. Oh, and then these were some left over from something I found at a thrift store. So I'm just going to put a little bead of glue and do a few at a time, and I'm going to glue the holes facing to the sides so that it's like they're being strung, but they're not actually having a string in between them. Also get some of these wooden beads at the Dollar Tree. They're all colored, so you probably would want to paint them white for this project, unless you want them all colorful. Really squeeze that last one in there, but I really like how that looks. That's just cute. I think I'm going to put some of this white rope around the outside as well. I think that will help finish it off. This is going to be a challenge. I'm going to slip my silicone mat underneath. Let's make sure I've got all the moss off of it. Now my silicone mat I use for, I heat my glue gun up on it so that it doesn't drip and burn something. I'm cleaning off my glue tip because I've got moss on it. And let's do this. So I'm going to run a bead around, and yes, it's touching my mat, and I'm okay with that, I think. And I'm putting the 45-degree angle cut on the rope with the longest side on top so the other side can kind of slip under. And then once this is hardened, it should peel right off of this mat. So I should get this whole thing onto the mat first. All right. Pull my rope back, pushing down on my board so that I don't get a whole bunch of glue under my project. And then I'm going to push the rope up against the edge of the egg. So I'm going to figure out where I need to cut my rope. And then I'm going to glue it down and just kind of try to twist the other rope with it. It's kind of messy. The only part of this that I am unhappy with is this part right here, where these two joined pieces of rope are. So I found this little embellishment in my stash. It's like twisted ribbon rosette with little pearls in the middle, and I had put a jute back on it, and I can glue that right down in the middle of my bunny, of my egg, and it will cover the yuckies on both of my rope trims. Make sure I get it centered, and I'm going to push it down so that it makes contact with all of the spots it needs to. And it just needs a little hanger. I'm just going to take a piece of jute, and I'm going to tie a knot, flip this over to the back, and I'm going to glue it down on the back to where it just kind of comes to the top. I don't want the hanger to be seen so much. So I put a little glue down, and then I'm just going back and forth over the top of the strand of jute with my hot glue. And just going to push it down and make sure that it is coated in the glue. And then it will dry, and that will be my hanger. I decided that the bunny needs a little bow. So I'm going to do one of my 2-finger wide bows. I'm just going to wrap it 5 times, bring my circle together, and tie it with another piece of jute. Now this had a burlap bow on it that I had taken off, and I meant to save it, and I don't know where it went. So you can totally save the bow that came on the bunny. All right, I'm liking this. All right, there you have it, my farmhouse take on a fancy Faberge Easter egg. I hope you liked this project. I was trying to think outside of the box and craft my stash using up what I had left around my house. So if you like this project, please give it a thumbs up. If not, give it a thumbs down. It lets me know what you like from my channel and what you want to see me keep doing. All right, let me know what you think of this project in the comment section below, and let me know what you're making using up your stash of things so that you don't have to go out to the store and you're keeping your proper social distancing and staying home and flattening that curve as much as possible. All right, this has been Crafting at Whimsy Wonderland. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you next time.